Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the meeting of the Committee on Senate Rules. And we have a short agenda, but things that need to be discussed. So the first of those is Proposition 3, which is in its second year of the trip out to the voters. But it comes from the committee to the Rules Committee, and then we have to offer it, if we so will, to the floor. Oops. That's all right. So the question is, should we advance Proposition 3 to the floor for the Rules Committee? My position is the same as it was last year, that this should go to the voters, but discussion on that.
Sorry, I just want to make sure for the new members of the Rules Committee, kind of the process, if you wanted, if I can have 30 seconds. So generally, we have Senate rules which kind of lay out the process. As you know by the Constitution, it has to be passed in one biennium, and it comes back for really a third reading. The House and the Senate are slightly different. In the House, they have more requirements, public hearings, even for a third reading. On the Senate side, what happens is that when it comes to third reading of this biennium, the Rules Committee calls it forward, which is a little different than the way the House did. It used to say that the Rules Committee or Judiciary did. That was changed about 5 or 10 years ago. Senator Ash was the pro tem. But so that's why you're voting on calling it forward. It has been looked at by, I believe, Economic Development over here. Our advice generally is that some committees look at it. Senator Lyons will remember from the last time we did one of these. And the reason we usually recommend that, not that it's required in the rules, is so that someone's able to present on the floor for all of your new members. And you have 9 new members, some are coming over from the House, but there are some people who may have questions on this. And so it's always nice to have people who have done a hearing in this biennium to be able to stand up and sort of be able to answer questions and explain. So our process is a little bit different than what the House follows. It's what our rules do require the Rules Committee to direct the Secretary's office to put it on the calendar. And that's what this vote really is to have us do it. Yeah. You'll also know that it'll be on the calendar for 7 days. Comes up on the 7th day, it'll be on notice. We put it on notice, we count the days, and before it comes up. A couple other things that once you guys approve it, we will put in the calendar sort of what happens so people, we get to know, like what the vote is, has to be like a roll call, sort of the stuff that will help you all talk to your caucuses about the process.
Okay. Yeah, Senator Lyons.
So if we were to vote it out, then it would be on the calendar until Thursday, after the Thursday we get back, so the 13th.
So the first notice day would be on a Tuesday, you're probably coming faster than I am. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, maybe
Wednesday, the 12th,
Thursday.
the 13th, yeah, okay.
Sorry, 7th day.
Yeah.
I only have so many fingers and
That's
some of them
okay.
don't work.
That's
Any other discussion?
No.
If,
One other quick thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes on our side or the Senate side, there have been, if the date doesn't work, it sometimes gets a special order. So if there's not enough people here or what's happening, it has been sort of custom tradition that at times, even though we come up on that Thursday, if that didn't work the second week of crossover, somebody could make a motion to make it a special order, postpone a date certain, when everybody on all different sides could be here to have 30 votes. And so that's really up to you, but it doesn't have to be on that day, but that would be the first day possibly.
do you have to have 30 votes?
No,
No.
but if you want, for your leadership and people on this committee, but if you wanted to make sure all 30 people had the opportunity to vote, sometimes you schedule it like giving a notice that first Thursday. You will need a majority of 5. Yep. So you'll need 16 votes, no matter how many people are here on the second year of the Senate. The strange, interesting part of this Constitution is there are really 4 different votes. Senate, House, and the second year of each chamber has a different requirement.
And then the voters.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to report this favor.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
any other discussion? Would the secretary call the roll?
Senator Collins.
Yes.
Senator Beck.
Yes.
Senator Ron Hinsdale.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Baruch.
Yes. All right, thank you for that. Second one is everybody's favorite, which is special requests for water on the floor, which, believe it or not, is an issue that rises to our committee, whether or not people can have a glass of water on the floor. the solution last biennium was that people who had a reason, medically inflected reason, let's call it, could ask for a specially designed tumbler that wouldn't, if it fell over, injure the wood. John apparently,
Numbered also.
but they were apparently discarded.
Oh, no.
John needs to buy new ones.
I would have kept mine. I
I
had my
would've kept
seat
mine
number.
too.
It's like
That
a
was
little
great.
The
keepsake.
phrase I think I use is, they've been lost, but they can be found.
I mean, unless you took them home. I'm
So-
fine too.
So so generally, the motion that you passed has been for this year, with cups that we're supposed to obtain. We still do have them. The problem is, even the motion, not necessarily the problem, was that it expired at the end of the last session, and so we did not bring them out. We did
Okay.
not put them out to encourage everyone, sorry, but they still exist, and they're done by numbers. So
But we should probably wash them if
we do
anyone
want
sees
to
them.
be known this.
Oh, okay.
So just so everybody kind of understands that hasn't been here before, the idea with the second requirement that it comes from our office, and as those of you who've seen them, they're basic blue, is so that we don't get into some of the stuff that may occur in other chambers where they have different political statements, different, so the whole idea here is keep it down, everyone is the same, everyone gets the cup that's the same, it's a non-spill, and the object is to accommodate it. There has been a request from the senator from Chittenden Central for health-related reasons. I believe that the senator from Chittenden Northeast, who had it last year, who sits among you, may be also requesting it.
Southeast.
Southeast,
But,
sorry.
but
I
I
may
was
or
like,
may
oh my
not.
God, is there
I did read it last year.
And yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I,
And
Yeah.
that's up to you all. And the senator from Washington who has requested, I have reached out to her a number of times today and I have not heard back. But she can always have it once again in the future, next meeting. She may or may not want it. The purpose of all this is there's no food and beverage at all in this chamber. You have the original desks. And so that's been the rules, and any exception to that has to be approved by you all. You'll also remember, Senator Lyons has mentioned a couple times here, that sometimes if you're sick and you need water, you get a day. You get a day, you just have to ask. Sometimes those are done informally, so you may see me if suddenly somebody's coughing and spitting and spewing. I basically walk around and talk to at least 3 of you to make sure that the majority of this committee has said it's okay and it's for a particular day. And that's, we've had, I can give off my background, we've had hot chocolate inside the desks, we've had spilled over. Given that these are the originals, it's kind of it's meant to preserve that.
well, I'll also just reaffirm as somebody who used it last year for medical reasons that are pretty obvious to folks, that I do like having the special request because I also feel like the Senate doesn't necessarily get too comfortable on the floor. Someone asked me, really, you have to do this? And I said, you know, we shouldn't be here long enough to need water. You know, we do a lot of deliberation in committee and not necessarily on the floor. And so I think it's good to have it as a special request. You probably heard my voice.
So I'm correct that we have 2 requests?
And you have to have the senator from Chittenden Southeast, but we have 2 of them.
Oh, I'm not requesting it. I didn't know if you were talking about the senator from Washington.
That's what.
Okay.
I'm not sure
Are
I'm
you?
not sure her condition
I have.
still applies, so.
I'm going to err on the side of caution and not having to call another meeting.
Right.
By saying, why don't we approve 2 requests, one for the senator from Washington and the other for the senator from Chittenden Central. And is that all right with everyone?
Sure. Fine.
Okay.
For the minutes, I'm assuming like last time where it's this current year, sometimes these continue, sometimes they
Yeah.
don't. And it has to be the same approved.
Yeah, sounds good. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
I might
nay?
ask you to have a bottle on the floor.
Oh,
In a special tumbler.
Okay, then the last thing, and this is one of John's favorite questions. So there are no electronics allowed in the chamber. We did make a change not that long ago where people are allowed to type So reporters can be here or here, and they can be typing a story, but they can't be online. And there have been reasons for that, arguments for and against that. So I had a request from a reporter who sits in the balcony and takes notes on his phone. And his question was, why can't I be online? Originally, there was a technological reason where it interfered with our signal in here. That's no longer the case, from what I understand. So in other words, I will just say, speaking for myself, if someone is allowed to be in the balcony, and I'm not thinking down here, but if they are in the balcony and they're typing on their phone already, if they're online, I don't see the difference myself. So I am inclined to relax the rule to that extent, that if you are in the balcony and you're a reporter, you can go forward with being online as well as typing, but I'll ask John's opinion now.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna give you background and I'll give you options. Whether I want to be voting on this, I do not. Unless I'm asking. So generally speaking, there are no electronics for various reasons. One of them is because the technology has used to interfere more. There's still no really electronics in here until early 2011, 12, 13. One of the reporters only took notes on his computer. And so there was a rules committee meeting that said that was okay. It did not allow the press to use their cell phones. It did not allow them to be online certain background because nobody else in the room can. But it did allow them to basically be using their computers to take notes. And some of them still do. We used to enforce that earlier in 2011, 12, 13. The meeting used to be a thing. And so the reporters would ask you to tweet from the floor. My answer was no. And so after you were voted, some of you may remember they would run out the side doors and tweet. And they were asked them. So that was sort of the way it's been through today. We enforce it against no electronics other than press using a computer. We do allow them to use it handheld for notes. There are a couple of reporters who do it for notes. That's how I enforce it, because it's my understanding that's what you approved. You can actually also vote to do away with what they currently do. But we also allow them, if they're using it for microphones, recording. There's a couple of press people who put it up there. I ask them frequently to take it off, the upper thing, because I don't want it to fall down and hit somebody in the back row. But they are allowed to use the electronics for that. They're also allowed, everyone is, I don't know, it's like this part. Everyone's always allowed nowadays to use their phone for photographs. It's supposed to be on airplane mode without a flash. The reason is because nobody has cameras anymore. And so the only way people take pictures is with their cell phone. And so practically speaking, it's sort of an exception. The issue becomes, how do you want to expand it, and where do you want to expand it, and who do you want to include? And so those are various options that you should be thinking about. One of them is area. Is there a defined area? I will tell you, if you define an area and it only dealt with press, that area up there was done for the press. There's tables. And so there's always a question, is it the full balcony, is it downstairs, is it up front? Our recommendation would be to keep it as much off the floor if you decide to expand it as possible. There should be nobody down here doing it. But if you decided to open it, there are at least one balcony and possibly two sides. There is a side that was originally created for the press. Second question is, who gets to use it? Is it just press, or is it anybody in the public? That's a decision that has to be made. It's harder for us to enforce it sometimes when we're using different classes, but that's, once again, you all can decide who can and who cannot. That has some precedent because the press does it now. The third question, whatever number I'm on, is what are you expanding it to? If you're expanding it, you can expand it to just taking notes. I will tell you the reporter who, I think, requested it from Senator Brew was doing email. Because we were doing lots of different stuff. And so the question is, does it expand it just to be on the website, or is it expanded to also do email and texting? That would be a decision you all may make. If you opened it up enough, they could blog, they could do whatever, whether or not they were in a certain area. So there's lots of little different parameters. The last issue I raised for you is, just to make sure you think about it, what's the press? Now, that's come up sometimes with whatever's happening over in the House or during a joint assembly, who gets to sit in the press, do they have to have credentials or not? I just need to know what you want. If somebody comes in that works for public access, like the Washington Public Access, and says that he can sit up there and text and do all sorts of other stuff, just want to make sure you know that there's everybody included, because it's hard to say that somebody from a public access from Washington County who sits in our finance room a lot is not part of the press. So you need to kind of make sure how you define the press.
And good series of decision points. My thinking would be that you would determine who is press, and we would trust you with that set of determinations. In terms of the location, I do think it should be just the upper balcony, and that parallels a little bit what happens in the House. To me, I think if we're gonna allow somebody to be online, it's crazy to say you can only be on certain places online. So I don't see any difference myself. If we're not gonna be disturbed by their phone, if we can't see or hear what they're looking at, to me, it doesn't matter what they're looking at. They could be on email or texting.
So, I mean, first of all, I think we should plan today to write this down and then look at a draft at another meeting.
Sure.
And two, I think what I worry about is publishing and live streaming. It's, doing a vlog from the floor. Like, we have the news cameras in here, but they don't live stream, to my knowledge, at this time.
There is no live streaming.
Okay, so
There is
the,
no live streaming from committee. That includes Facebook pages or whatever you.
Okay.
We've shut those down before. That's a decision that's been made. The cameras that are here are usually recorded. They have to be in certain areas. There have been a couple exceptions, Senator.
Yeah.
One of them was when we came back, you all came back from COVID, I think the first year, we had one press camera that was allowed to be live.
okay,
And so there have been some exceptions decided by rules, but right now there is no live broadcasting. The only live broadcasting is what the Senate itself is on through Zoom.
right, and as long as they're not creating a nuisance. I mean, as someone whose daughter may or may not have watched Peppa Pig from that couch right there, I certainly understand giving flexibility and just sort of, it sounds like if the live streaming is taken care of, then most of the other rules prevent it from becoming a hazard to debate or floor activity.
And I would be willing to always give the secretary discretion if he thinks in some way it's impeding our work to shut it down, whatever it is. But I take the suggestion, it's a good idea. We could move that the secretary draft something for us to look at the next meeting.
I think that'd be good.
That'd be great.
I do like restricting the press to one place. And in the House, it's so predictable and you know where the press is, that's.
I will,
If they're wanting to
Yeah,
get online, but
Right.
we do have press down here.
no, I understand.
so I will probably do it as decision points. I'm not sure I have a direction to do. But I'm not even sure there's been I think it's a discussion, because it could be before the next meeting, you all have a conversation, say we don't want to do it. But I
Sure.
will put down like the decision points, so that you can have them for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll probably be the outlier here, but I would absolutely vote no
Okay.
to make any changes.
Just,
Because I think once you open the door, it's an inevitable path that there'll be a whole bunch of people up there typing away.
yeah, fair enough.
Are you
So
talking about typing away or?
No, and
internet
also being
access?
online
Yeah,
and sending
okay,
stuff
yeah.
out.
she's needed for a conference committee report, we're all,
So, thank you for the discussion.
Next-
With that, we'll adjourn.
great,
Yeah,
okay, you're needed.
Oh, we're meeting at 12 o'clock.